Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music. Pulse, tempo, meter, subdivision. Today I want to look at time. Time is a ribbon. It's a river. It's a continuously flowing experience. And yet musicians, uniquely, have the ability to parse it into manageable, bite-sized chunks, we might call a pulse or a beat, and then group those pulses and then divide those beats. It goes on and on, right? Thinking clearly about the hierarchy of that is very helpful as a composer, as an improviser, as a band member. Let's talk about it. So every DAW has a metronome, and I suggest you set your metronome carefully. Now, I prefer a mechanical metronome when I'm practicing piano and working with my students, when I'm playing guitar. I have one of those old school ones that does this tickety tick, tick, tick. I have to wind it up. There's a spring inside. I love the way it sounds. But in Logic, not practical. Every DAW has metronome settings. And I want to show you how I have mine set up. First of all, the metronome, it's possible to send any one of the grouping concepts out to other instruments and stuff, but just built into Logic here. Each of these groups, and the most important one for us right here is beat, is sending out a note. And if I just roll this, you can hear that I've organized the sound of my metronome to be fairly low. The default is actually D-sharp 5, and I've set the velocities to be identical for every tick. I literally don't want my metronome on the screen to be handling my beat and metrical divisions for me. I want to do that experientially as a performer, as a composer, and in my arrangement. I want every tick to be exactly the same, or in the case of my actual mechanical metronome, to vary aleatorically, to vary like randomly and sort of in tiny little increments. And that's what I recommend to my students, and I recommend it to you as well. Cultivate the capacity to hear a beat and sort of sustain the grouping of it. Okay, so this is the very first thing. When you're born, you've already spent a good amount of time hearing a heartbeat. And that heartbeat has gone up and down, fast and slow, and then yours started beating too. This whole time, it's about the only thing that you have available to you as input. There's our pulse. This is 60 beats a minute. Not all music, not all organized sound is organized around a pulse, but a lot of it is. And I'd be willing to bet it's rare for you to organize music around something that isn't a regular pulse. Now, from here, the next question we want to ask ourselves is, how fast? This is 60 beats a minute. And I just chose that randomly. We could go up and down from there. And in fact, think about it. I'm describing one time in terms of another, 60 beats a minute. I described my musical tempo in terms of a clock time. It is very difficult to sort of scientifically talk about time, beat, pulse, without using words borrowed from other time concepts. Atomic clocks rely on fundamental principles of the vibrations of elemental objects. It's true and crazy, right? But dividing time is one of these particular problems. It's very difficult to talk about it without bringing in expressions from other time concepts. And as such, it's very difficult to come up with what I call basic principles about it. So we just have to settle on decent vocabulary. Pulse, just a recurring event. Pulse then has tempo. When we group pulses, beats, They're not beats yet. We're just grouping pulses. When we group pulses that have a tempo, we get meter. And meter is, simply put, what most people think of as the time of a piece. So I can group 4 pulses, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, to get the most conventional metrical grouping that we use in pop music these days. Doesn't have to be 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. One instrument could be grouping its part in groups of 3. Another instrument could be grouping in groups of 4. No reason those two things can't exist at the same time. Absolutely no reason. In fact, in an orchestra, there's no reason why 2 instrumental sections can't have 2 different pulses, except for the challenge for the poor composer and the conductor and everybody trying to make everything work together. Now, the way we get around that challenge is by using something called subdivision. All right, this basic pulse here could be easily divided in 2. I'm clapping twice as fast as the pulse. That's a easy duple subdivision, but we could just as easily divide that basic pulse in 3. 2 and 3 are by far the most common, but 4 is not unusual too. And I don't know if I can clap 4, but let's see if it's possible. Western common practice has come up with all kinds of names for these things, and you've seen, I'm sure, maybe I can splash something up on the screen, quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, quarter note triplets, eighth note triplets, 16th note triplets. You've seen these notations. They're just graphical ways of informing the performer the subdivision of the beat that is asked for. Now, I'm fascinated by subdivisions of the beat that vary and create interesting secondary rhythms. For instance, let's go back to that basic pulse. I'm going to play some half notes. Here we go. These are notes with 2 beats each. They're not quarter notes, they're half notes, although we don't really need to know what they look like on the page. It's nice to have some kind of name for them. The most important thing is each of those notes is 2 beats long. What if I divided those 2 beats into 3 equal parts? Well, I'd get something we call a quarter note triplet, and I'd begin to divide the beat in a kind of a weird way. You'll see what I mean. I'm going to add a note in the middle. Let's say dividing the beat just into straight quarter notes now. And it's a very clear, interesting look right there. You can see the same amount of time has now been subdivided equally into 6 bits and 4 bits. That one was fun for me. Now I've divided the basic measure in 2 equal parts, 3 equal parts, 6 equal parts, and 4 equal parts. As I said, these ideas are complicated and really take hours to integrate and also just plain I'll just say it, to teach. But walk away from this lesson with these ideas. There is a pulse. The speed of the pulse is called tempo. Group the pulse into meter. Subdivide each of those pulses to create secondary rhythms within that basic meter. These are powerful ideas, and at their heart are the sort of ground floor of all of the metrical and rhythmic structures that you're going to use as you build your own compositions, as you analyze things that you admire, as you take in music from other sources. It's by no means the only way to go about doing things, of course. If you're more interested in this, we'll talk about it more later. But for now, that's probably enough. Like and subscribe, ding the bell. You'll be notified when I do my videos, and I will see you next time.